Hey everybody. Trying to go get back into it. So I got a lot of y'all sending me requests. I'll try to honor each and every one of them that I can. All right, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try really hard, but I cannot guarantee anything. There's a lot of y'all asking for shit. All right. So that being said, we got one from Mr. L, or also known as BP on the Discord, and it's this one. It's another military one. Operation Glacier Two: The rescue of Royal Marine Lance Corporal Mathew Ford in January 2007. All right, let's see what he has for us in store, shall we? Y'all ready? Let's jump in.
Final bearing 337. 26 knots down the eagle. 406 interval is a rhino at 5.
In mid-2002, a year after the start of the US-led invasion of Afghanistan, Operation Herrick commenced, which was to be the operational code name under which all British military operations in Afghanistan were to be conducted. 4 years later, in January of 2006, British Defence Secretary John Reid announced that a British task group would be deployed to Helmand Province as part of the expansion of the NATO mission in Afghanistan, with the 16th Air Assault Brigade, who arrived in the country in April of that year, leading the first troop rotation. The 16th remained in theatre until October 2006, when it was replaced by the 3rd Commander Brigade, which had as its principal infantry units the Royal Marines of 4-2 and 4-5 Commandos, reinforced by the Scimitar Light Tanks of Sea Squadron, the Light Dragoons, in addition to supporting artillery, engineer, medical and logistical assets. 2 months into its deployment in December of 2006, the 3rd Commander Brigade launched the first of 5 offensives aimed at maintaining pressure on the Taliban over the winter months, which were to be collectively known as Operation Glacier. The planning for the second such offensive, known as Glacier Two, began on the 10th of January 2007, with the target being the Taliban-held position known as Jugroom Fort, which was being used as a staging area from which the Taliban launched attacks against both British and NATO forces.
Oh hey, it's one of the places I've been to before. Lashkargah. It's an okay place, I guess.
Preceded by an aerial and artillery bombardment, the plan called for 100 Royal Marines of Zulu Company 4-5 Commando to conduct an assault crossing over the River Helmand and a small canal using Viking armoured vehicles, whilst the Scimitar tanks of the Light Dragoons laid down suppressing fire. Once across the waterways, the Marines were then to disembark from the Vikings, storm into the fort, destroy any Taliban infrastructure in the area, before disengaging and returning to their forward operating base. Unfortunately, 3rd Commander Brigade had insufficient troops available in the theatre to hold the fort if it was taken, and as such, Operation Glacier Two was restricted to a large-scale raid.
Then again, kind of par for the course, especially for the British military. The thing with the Brits is that they've always had to do a lot with a lot less, essentially. It's not like us where we had thousands on thousands on thousands of troops almost everywhere at once. Um, the Brits had to use a lot less troops to try and accomplish a lot more. Um, but you know what? Honestly, when it came to like any any of my experience with them has always been that these guys are just they're good. They're good. The Royal Marines Commandos, the Royal Scottish Guard. I've met them a few times. Solid guys through and through. And they really do a lot more with a lot less. They really do. Um, but also, that presents a danger in itself, where if the enemy has sufficient numbers, nobody's Superman, right? So if you're outnumbered by like 4-1 odds, those aren't very good odds, no matter who you are and what you're doing. Those are never good odds. So I have a feeling it's going to be something similar to this. That's what I have a feeling it'll be. Something where they probably going to bite off a lot more than they're able to chew off. And something tragic's about to go down. I may or may not have heard of this one.
Beginning at midnight on the 14th of January 2007, the 105mm artillery guns of the 29th Commando Regiment Royal Artillery opened fire on Jug Room 4. Then, as 0300 on the 15th, a US B-1 Lancer heavy bomber flew overhead and dropped 20 2,000-pound bombs onto the target area, with one creating a breach in the fort's outer perimeter wall. The conclusion of the preliminary bombardment was meant to act as the green light for Zulu Company to move off from their start line, but delays meant it would not be until 0630 as daylight began to break that the ground assault got underway. Mounting up onto their Vikings, the Royal Marines began their attack, crossing first the River Helmand and later the canal, before disembarking from their vehicles on the open ground to the south of the fort. At the same time, the Scimitar light tanks of C Squadron, the Light Dragoons, opened up in the Taliban positions, which were infiltrating the open ground with small arms, machine gun and RPG fire, resulting in 5 of the British troops becoming wounded. Despite this, the Royal Marines pressed on with scattered groups reaching the hole that had been created in the outer wall by the B-1 bomber. From here, elements of Zulu Company stormed into the fort itself, where over the next 45 minutes, they fought against stiff Taliban resistance and directed Apache helicopters onto the enemy strongpoints, until the decision was made to withdraw back across the river. After breaking contact with the enemy and reaching the west bank of the River Helmand, the senior officers conducted a head count to ensure everyone was accounted for, during which it was realised that a Marine, Lance Corporal Mathew Ford, was missing in action.
So he most likely got separated from his unit in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, I kind of guessed something like this would happen. And this sounds similar to something I heard happening around that time. Not really sure what details I'm missing. But I do remember hearing that there was an operation. It didn't go very well at all, and in fact, they ended up having to go back in, which that never bodes well. That never bodes well. But yeah, and this stuff does happen. People think like there's no way to get separated because you're all within sight of each other and stuff. Well, it's a different story in combat, right? You got rounds flying all over you, and unless you're basically like on top of each other and in constant communication over the din or over the sounds of combat, over the auditory, the overwhelming auditory just chaos and noise that's happening, someone can easily get separated there. Hell, it's happened to me. And I'm decent at making sure my bearings are good, right? But sometimes it just can't be helped. If you're pinned down by enemy fire, you can't. It's hard for you to it's hard for you to do anything, right? If you're pinned down by fire, it's hard to get around that essentially, without taking a huge risk and exposing yourself to enemy. To enemy ordnance. Yeah, for me, like, in a lot of ways, it was pretty brief because there was enough of us, right? Thankfully, stuff like that didn't happen when there was very few of us. And yeah, just it's not like the movies where you could just get up and start running and every round is going to miss you. I've seen guys get up as soon as they do, get drilled. And those are the perfect conditions for people to get separated. Perfect. Because there's only so much you could do without having someone else affect some kind of change in the engagement or control the engagement on your behalf. And that is if they know that you desperately need that change of engagement or that control of engagement to come from a different direction or someone to take another angle or avenue of approach to affect your ability to rejoin everybody else. That's if they know that you've been separated from everybody. However, if you have no idea and you're not in constant communication with each other, this stuff can happen very easily. Very easily. And it's a terrifying prospect for any soldier.
Consequently, a Desert Hawk 3 surveillance drone was put into the sky to try and find the missing Marine, and it was not long before a heat signature was spotted, sat up against the outer wall of the fort, and identified to be the Lance Corporal. On receiving his location, Zulu Company organised a force of 4 Vikings and a dozen Royal Marines to go back across the river and recover their colleague, just as a Nimrod MR2, which had been providing overhead surveillance during the raid, reported that large concentrations of Taliban reinforcements were converging on the fort. Subsequently, the Apache helicopters were tasked with providing air cover for the rescue. However, on being briefed on the mission, the air crews realised that they had insufficient fuel to remain over the target for the duration of the recovery, and instead Warrant Officer Mark Rutherford, the pilot of one of the Apaches, put forward an alternative plan to the commanding officer of Zulu Company. "Sir, I've got a different idea. We will land at your location, give me 4 men and I'll strap them to 2 Apaches. We'll go over, land by the fort, strap the casualty to the base of my helicopter and come back. All you need to do is find 4 volunteers." After assessing his options, the commanding officer accepted this new plan and found 4 volunteers to carry it out, including Captain Dave Rigg, a Royal Engineer of the 28th Engineer Regiment, Marines Chris Fraser Perry and Gary Robertson, and Warrant Officer Class 1 Colin Hearn.
Absolute mad lads. Yes, I remember hearing about this one. And it was really hard to believe because we wouldn't think of doing something like this unless we were absolutely desperate. And there was just zero other option whatsoever. Bub. They're going to land Apaches right into the middle of the enemy, area of operations, into a cluster of Taliban, armed with RPGs, Dishkas, all sorts of weaponry. If so much as one of those Apaches gets grounded, that is a serious problem. Oh, buddy, absolute mad lads. This is ballsy as hell. Then again, I would expect no less from the Brits. I really would not. This really fits. But see, I heard about this one, but I never got confirmation it actually truly happened. Now I know it did. Hot damn.
Captain Dave Rigg later recalled his reaction to the task. "It seemed an extraordinary, almost unbelievable plan. For one thing, I had no idea you could put passengers on an Apache. Where were they going to be, hanging underneath it, sitting on the side of it? No one knew at this stage how this would pan out."
Shoot, I had no idea either. That's a hell of a risk to take, no matter what you do.
Regardless of these concerns, as Warrant Officer Class 1 Colin Hearn stated, "There was no way we were going to leave him or anyone else on that battlefield." With the 4 volunteers briefed on their task, they grabbed their equipment, made their way over to the 2 Apaches, climbed on board and took off for Jugroom 4, with an armed escort provided by a further 2 Apaches.
Look at the absolute look at the shit-eating grin on this guy's face. He's like, yeah, let's go get it. Onward, noble steed. Bub, gotta love it. Gotta love it.
Apaches and 2 US A-10 Thunderbolt aircraft, whilst a US B-1 bomber carried out a second bomb run to suppress any Taliban resistance. Flying out just after 0930, the 4 Apaches made their approach to the fort. The escort helicopters, one of which was flown by Captain Charlotte Madison, the first female Apache pilot in the British Army, breaking off to provide fire support to the rescue mission. Simultaneously, the two rescue Apaches flew into the target area, with the first mistakenly landing inside the fort itself, whilst the second touched down on the correct LZ, enabling Captain Dave Rigg and Marine Chris Fraser Perry to disembark and move off to recover Lance Corporal Mathew Ford. Rushing over to the outer perimeter wall, Captain Rigg located the wounded Lance Corporal and began to drag him back to the helicopter, with Marine Fraser Perry coming to his assistance moments later. As they neared the Apache, the two pilots jumped out and helped strap the Lance Corporal to the aircraft, all the while under constant Taliban small arms fire, until the four re-embarked onto the helicopter and got into the air once again. Meanwhile, Warrant Officer Class 1 Colin Hearn and Marine Gary Robertson had become disorientated during the landing and, unknowingly, began heading towards the inner wall of the fort. Realising he had overrun the LZ, the pilot of the Apache leapt out and warned the two Marines that they were heading in the wrong direction, leading to the three moving off to the outer wall, from where they got eyes on Team 2 strapping Lance Corporal Ford to the second helicopter. With the mission completed, the three returned to their aircraft and got back into the air, linking up with the second helicopter and the two escorts, who over the course of the rescue had not only used their 30mm cannons, but had also expended all of their onboard missile and rocket ammunition in holding off Taliban counterattacks.
I think what they're doing now, I think the Apaches are landing. I think they're going to try and get the casualty out, or hopefully, I pray and hope he's still alive. They're just going to pick him up, get him out of there. Apache there still whacking 30mm down. I think what's going to be happening is one will be picking him up, one will be giving cover. You've got two Apaches that are giving air support. Come on, be alive. If he's alive, then it's top dollar. Okay, Apaches are off the deck. You can see a big dust cloud forming now. So I should imagine that's them lifting off. Let's hope they've got the young lad. Okay, I can see one Apache coming through the cloud. And he's away, and someone's hanging underneath. Doesn't look good. Doesn't look good.
Hot damn. And the birds only have so much ammo to spare. That's why more often than not you're using these aircraft in a fire support role of some kind. Close air support. Using them by themselves to hold off who knows how many hostiles with negligible, and I mean negligible, numbers on the ground to supplement that. Bob! Ballsy as hell. But they made it. They freaking made it. Bub. What do they say? Per mare per tarm? I'm pretty sure that's their motto.
Sitting on one of the wings of the second Apache, Captain Dave Rigg recounted the return into Zulu's position. As we flew over the river, all the Zulu company were lined up on the west bank, waiting and hoping. It was a pretty solo moment for everyone. Seconds later, we landed and put Lance Corporal Ford on the ground. We then moved him to an awaiting CH-47 Chinook helicopter, which flew him back to Camp Bastion.
Oh yeah, there it is right there. The Royal Marines Commandos insignia. Per mare per term. Bub. Rest in peace, Royal Marine. Rest in peace. Everybody else now has the 12. Bub. Freaking ballsy. Like I heard stories about it, but I didn't believe it, and I never asked anybody about it. I probably should have. That's freaking amazing. Well, there we go. From Liveth Forevermore. Operation Glacier 2, the rescue of Royal Marine Lance Corporal Mathew Ford, January 2007. Man, I remember hearing about it, but it sounded so unbelievable to me. I thought it was just like, somebody hyped up something that happened to like the nth degree, which happened a lot more often than people thought. That's incredible. I mean, if I was absolutely desperate, I may or may not have, been like, you know what? What's the last possible thing we could possibly do to make this happen? And there we go. But damn. Well, that's Royal Marines Commandos for you. Seriously. But what did y'all think? Y'all let me know in the comments down below. All right, y'all know what time it is. You like me, you like this content. You like Royal Marines Commandos for their ballsiness. You like my content, then please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Then hit the real subscribe button called notification bell so as you get videos when I post them up. Or better yet, get into the Discord. Link will be in the description box down below. That's the best way to get notifications and the best way to send me requests and, talk to me about stuff. So, yeah, there's that. So, yeah, I'll end it like I usually do. Be good. Be safe. Make good life for yourselves. And I will see y'all in the next one. Blast Cat Badger out.